All yours.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining to the talk. Today we are going to talk about learning on the go, a board game design journey. Some things I want to clarify before starting this talk. As you may already know, this is going to be a talk about a design process of a board game I'm currently designing. And while talking about board games, it's really easy to dive deep into the rules of the game, but that's not the case. I want this talk to be because I want to direct all this talk about the design process and the design problems that I have been facing for the last 2 years now while designing this game. If you want to interrupt me during the talk, you can of course do that. I will be answering all the questions you want. But just have that in mind. This is not a talk for explaining the rules of the game, but for explaining and sharing with you all the problems and the little successes I had during all the design process. So that's it. Let's get started. Okay. About me. Well, my name is Carlos Pisarello. I'm 26 years old. I live in Resistencia, Chaco, Argentina. I'm a graphic designer since 2016. Um, Officially, I got my title that year. I'm a web UI developer at Lenny Labs. I'm an illustrator since 2012 and an artist since I can remember. And I'm also a guy whose face is hard enough to call himself a board game designer. Sadly, that's the truth. Oh, and I swear to God, I am the guy in that picture. Those are game designers, not me. Some of you may already know them. The guy on the left is Richard Garfield, and the guy on the right is Mark Rosewater. Um, those two guys are big models to follow for me. Richard Garfield is the designer of Magic: The Gathering, Keyforge, King of Tokyo, Hive Mind, Andre the Runner, King of New York. The guy designed a lot of games in his life, and Marcus Water is the head designer of Magic: The Gathering since like 20 years ago. And the two of them are geniuses, um, mathematicians, people that know exactly what to put in a game and when to put it. Those are big role models for me while designing a game. So if you can Google about them, you will not regret ever in your life. So let's go. So how did I get from a shower idea to a playable model of my game? I guess I can say a lot of this because it has been a long journey to this day. But I think the right answer is I don't know. I don't know how did I do that because I didn't know what I wanted to do at the first day of starting to design a game. And that's the thing. Not knowing how to do something is not a reason not to try it. I've been playing games actively since 2012. The first game I have ever played in my life. I mean, I have played the classical games when I was younger, but I started playing TCGs, trading card games, in 2012 with an Argentinian game called Inferno, that sadly is discontinued at this time, but it was a great game. I started playing that in 2012, and since that moment, I didn't stop until now, and I have a library of board games that is constantly growing because I am unaddicted to board games at this time. But the thing is, I knew how to play games, I knew how to have fun playing games, but I didn't know how to design a game. And that's something I really wanted to learn. Uh, when I was coming from work one day, I was working at another company at that time. I was coming to my house, and suddenly an idea just struck me on right on my brain, and it was I want to create a game about disarming a bomb. There was already a game about disarming a bomb, but it was something different. I want to create a puzzle game. Why? I cannot say. Where will that idea go? You cannot know. How will I get there? I hadn't decided yet, but one thing I can tell. Anytime you think about a board game, it will whisper the name, and I can complete the Simpsons reference because at that time the game didn't have a name. So let's go. That idea started to grow and grow that day while I was showering, and some things came to my mind. Um, if it's going to be a puzzle game, I want to have pieces because a puzzle is about moving things in a table or changing the side of some things or some things like that. Sorry, what was that? No, I think I saw somebody
Shut
had
the
a question.
microphone. So don't worry.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Well, that idea started to grow and grow while I was taking a shower, and I came with these concepts. Um, the bomb to be a bomb, it has to have components. You can have a button, you can have a switcher, you can have a knob and a wire, for example. Because always on the movies, the people that is disarming a bomb is moving or rotating knobs or switchers or cutting wires. Is the red or it's the blue? That classical kind of stuff. So the first thing I thought about was components, but the player needs some actions to activate those components. So the second thing I thought while I was showing was actions. For each one of those components, you need to have an action. If you want to activate a button, you have to push the button. If you want to activate a switcher, you have to move it. If you want to activate a knob, you have to rotate it, and you can cut the wires. Okay? This was the basic concept, the seed of the game I wanted to create. So after that, I started making some prototypes with cardboard and just a pen, and I came up to with these things that you are looking at right now. Um, it was really basic drawings because all I wanted to do at this time was to play, was to test this game. I was sure was the best thing I was going to do in my life. We are going to see really soon that was not the case, but this is what I came out with. The components are the green cards and the actions are the blue cards. The wires are just those simple lines. Then you have the switcher, the bottom that is a circle, the knob that you can rotate, and the button you can push. And I thought, how am I going um, to build the table for this game? I mean, how can you interact with the components of the bomb? And I wanted this to be a small game because starting small is always easier than having a super big project. So I said, okay, let's make this 3 for 3 grid, 3 columns and 3 rows, and we are going to randomly place the components in that grid. And this was the first time I started seeing my game on a table. After that, I called one of my friends from the group where we uh, usually play board games, and I told him I had something to show him that was going to blow his mind because it was the greatest thing ever. And his reaction was something like this: "Oh, this is nice," because all the things he was looking at was some pieces of cardboard. So after that, I explained him the rules of the game that were really simple at that time, and the rules of that game were If you activate a component, you can take it from the board, and that's the basic rule. You need to disarm or take all the components from the bomb in order to disarm it. The wires conduct electricity, so if you cut a wire, you are not going to remove that wire, but the components at the end. At the start of each turn, lower the timer count by 1. If the time ends and there are components left on the bomb, it explodes and the players lose. So there was another element on the game that was the time. The time started with 30 seconds at that moment. I think I don't actually remember, but each turn the players have to lower the counter by 1, and if the counter goes to 0 before they can remove all the components, they lose. Otherwise, they win because they disarmed the bomb. You can play as many actions as you want per turn, but from the second onwards, each one takes 1 second from the timer. There started to be concepts on the game at that time, because I thought you have actions on your hand. Those are cards the players are going to have in their hand, and with those cards they can interact with the bomb. But if you take too much time doing things on your turn, that means the timer is going to keep going on a real situation. So I put that rule about if you play more than one action on your turn, you are going to start lowering the timer on your turn and losing time, let's say. And you start the game with 3 actions in your hand. So we start playing, and after 3 matches, I think, after 3 games, the real output for that was the following: the game is boring, the game is pointless, the game feels incomplete, I can't do much, I will always have repeated actions in my hand. That was something I didn't realize until I actually played the game, because when you're designing things, you are thinking about stuff in your head that you think they are going to work a specific way, but on real life that is actually not the case. And that's the best thing that can happen to you. Failing while designing something is the best thing, because that is the moment when the design start improving, let's say. I will always have repeated actions. I will never want to play more than one action on my turn, and it's super easy to win. And well, that was the actual output of the first time I have played the game, and it was kind of shocking to me, because I said, no, it was the best thing I have ever done in my life. How it can go so wrong? But then I realized, oh, okay, that's design. That's what I have learned on on all the career I have done in in the university. I already knew this was going to be that way, but it's always a little bit painful when the things go so bad. I'm sorry. But not everything was a bad thing after that. There were there were some things that were actually good, and those things were the game looks like a cool idea, and it sounds funny to play. I mean, if I go to you and say, let's disarm a bomb, it's something like that sounds exciting, but well, on the real life, it was not so much. But it sounds funny to play, and that's a good start. The wires are fun to interact with, so there was at least one item in the game that was not pointless, and you can add characters. That was something a friend of mine told me. Like, if you are a guy disarming a bomb, you can play with multiple people. You can give them a role or something like that, like the expert on wires or the expert on knobs or something like that, that can change the rules of the game. And that was a cool idea. And at that moment was when I have put the name of the game, that is actually Boom Squad. The first name that I came out with was Bomb Squad, but we wanted to make it a little bit funnier. And it was like, let's say we're a group of people that are not experts at all, and we are kind of dumb or something like that, like the Three Stooges or or so. And if we put that bomb squad, it sounds like they know what they're doing. But if we put boom squad, like the sound of an explosion, it implies that sooner or later they are going to mess up and make the bomb explode. So that's a funnier name than bomb squad, and adds a little bit to the concept of the game. So from that moment, the game started calling boom squad. After that, I sat alone and thought and thought and thought what I could do to improve the game. I took note, of course, of the testing that we were doing, and I came out with these concepts. You have to make the components interact, because at that time, when you activated one component, you just took that from the board, and that was all. It didn't do anything, just taking things from the board. You have to add layers to the game and make things happen, because at that moment the game was just boring. Nothing was happening on the board. And you have to challenge and reward the players for playing against the bomb. This is a thing on the collaborative tabletop games I always play, and it's that you have to feel that you are facing against something, because otherwise you don't have a reason to play. I mean, one of my favorite games is the Big Book of Madness, where you are a magician, a student magician that accidentally opens a book full of monsters, and you have to go against that book with your teammates and try to close it before um, the monsters put spells on you or some things like that. So you are facing something. And on my game, that was not happening. I mean, you were just moving cards on a square, and that was not funny at all. So I started thinking about that, and the new rules I came out with were the next. There were some new things added to the game, and we are going to look at them right now. New game rule. Each component is facing to one of its four sides. When you activate the component, it will fire the component it is facing to. That component will be taken from the board. So from now on, you have to activate components to take other components from the board. And the thing was, with this new rule, the players started making the components interact between themselves. So to to remove one component from the bomb, you need to activate other component, and that added a new layer to the game where you need to think a little bit more about what you want to take from the board before you can move a component. And there were new card types, and those were effects. Each time a component is fired, draw a card from the effects deck. Then do what it says. Green cards are good effects, red cards are bad effects, blue cards have two effects. When you draw one blue card, throw a d6. D6 is a dice with 6 sides, the classical one. If the result is even, do the good effect. If it's odd, do the bad one. And this added another layer to game that was things started to happen. When you remove a component, it's not just taking that component from the puzzle, but something else is going to happen. You are going to accidentally lower the counter by 2 seconds or something like that. If it's a good thing, you are going to add time to the counter, so you have more time to disarm the bomb. You are going to fire another component accidentally. You are going to return components from the discard pile. Some things like that started interacting with the actual board. Sorry. Started interacting with the actual board. And I added a layer of randomly activated stuff with the blue cards. And it was something, I thought it was going to be something thrilling to throw a dice and wait for the result. So after that, we start playing again. I called my friend. Oh, and there was one more thing, sorry. A new action, inspect. As we had new components on the game that were the effects, when you remove a component from the board, it's going to do something from this point. And with this new action, you could predict what was going to happen when you remove one specific component from the board. So with the inspect action, you could look at that component, draw one card from the actions deck, and put that action behind that component. So from that point, you have information. When you remove that component, it was going to be something good, something bad, or something random. But you actually knew what was going to happen. So the players could start making decisions based on the information they had. And I thought at that time, okay, this is the time. This is when the game gets good. This is when it starts to being funny, because now we have actions, we have some things happening on the board. And the actual outcome of that was, again, everything went wrong. The actions I introduced, the effects of some actions, I didn't realize they were going to cause infinite loops of components firing one another. And it was really confusing because it was like a chain of events that as a player you weren't able to stop. And that caused on one match that we actually won the game on the third turn. And it was like, okay, if it was easy to win before, now it is even easier but more confusing. So it just got worse. Missing rules about the new action. The players didn't actually know how to play the new action. They thought they could change the actions between the components or some things like that, and it was a little bit confusing. I can infinitely cut wires. There was something that we realized at that time. When you cut a wire, you take two components out from the board at that time, one on each extreme of the wire, and there was nothing stopping the player to infinitely cut the wires and just win the game cutting that specific component. It was cool to interact with, but it was too overpowered. And the game is still boring, dude. Why is anything interesting happening? I thought with the actions or with the effects, they were going to be a little bit more funny to play, but that was not the case. The game was still boring. But as the previous iteration, there were some good things as well. The effects are cool. They are overpowered and sometimes a little bit confusing, but they are cool. I like the new effects. The new action makes me feel I can take justified decisions. The information I was going to the players when they started inspecting components was doing exactly what I wanted to do. They started taking decisions based on the information they had. And the direction makes me think before doing anything. Now with the direction of the components, that was this little arrow we can see on the green component. The players had to think at least a little bit before moving a component, because they were not going to take that component from the board, but another component based on the previous action. So they started thinking a little bit more about what to do in the board. So those were the good things. And after that, I started thinking again. They were like 1 week after that test, and I came out with these new action items, let's say. Fits the infinite loops, modifying the effects, no firing components. That was a new rule we implemented. We realized that if we fire new components or other components or extra components after a component was fired, that was really easy to cause an infinite loop, because when you fire a component, you draw another card and that card may fight another component, and when you fight another component, you draw another card, and that may fight another component, and so on. So we said, okay, no more fighting components. That is not a good idea. It's really easy to get out of hand. The other action item was you can only spend one time each component. So from that moment, when you put an effect behind one component, you are like setting your destiny, let's say, on that component. You can change it anymore. If it's something bad, you can change it to something good. Um, it is always going to something bad happen, let's say. And the wires have counters now, so you can only coop them thrice. Um, Putting a limit to the times you can cut a wire is like balancing the actual component. And after that, the game was like, okay, we start playing again. It was not the funniest thing ever, but it was an okay game. I mean, we can keep working on this. And I thought it was December 2019. And 2 months later, the world ended. As we already know, I'm sorry, um, we got into a pandemic and other things that we we already know that happened on the 2020. Um, and well, the quarantine started here in Argentina, where I live, on March, I think. I don't actually remember the actual date. There were some tweaks on the game during those months, but from that time, from March onwards, we started working home office on our homes, and it was like, okay, now I have more time to do all the things I want to do, and one of those things was continue designing my game. But that was actually not the case, and that was one big lesson I learned, and it was something you need to uh, give yourself time uh, to heal some things, or just to calm down a little bit, because it was not like I start working on the morning and then I finish, and I don't have to come back to my house because I'm in my house. I don't lose time with the bus or something like that. It was like I'm afraid all the time to go outside. I had to wash my hands 37.5 times a day. I need to wash everything all the time, and it was really mind consuming. And at that time, I was facing a treatment for an anxiety disorder I live with, and it was really, really, really exhausting. All the situation I was on, it was really stressing. I was facing a lot of anxiety at that time, and I realized I couldn't put all the effort I needed to put on the game on that mind state. So I just said, okay, let's just cut it right here and start again whenever I can, because if I do the things in a forced way, I am not going to go anywhere. I tried to do that, and the game was not going anywhere. It was just really, really frustrating. And I said, okay, um, I need to have fun designing a game, because if I don't do that, it's pointless at the end. So one eternity later, and it was, I think, February of this year, 2021. And I opened a box on my house looking for other thing, and I found this. All this stuff that you may be seeing on the camera right now. It was the game I stopped designing like 1 year ago, and I said, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing there?" I started looking at the rules again because I have forgotten like half of them. I didn't actually know how to play my own game. So I started looking at the game again and said, okay, I think I am better now. My treatment have already ended because I was on medication for like 1 year or so. My treatment I already ended. I am in a better mind state right now, and I can actually work on this game I was putting so much time before. So I started again, and I had an idea. I had a friend who's also an illustrator, and she actually loves the horror stuff, like horror movies or the spooky things. And I also love that kind of stuff. So I thought about contacting her to do the illustrations for the game, but turned the game into something else. And it was the time I thought about reskinning the game. The reskin is a concept in design where you take something and you change the way it looks or the outside concepts of the design without changing the mechanics. So reskinning the game was something like it's not a bomb anymore; it's an artifact now, like the Lemarchand's box from Hellraiser, a magical artifact that you need to interact with in order to do something. It was not a bomb disarming squad. It was no dark magicians or occultists or something like that. They were not actions anymore. They were spells. They were not effects. They were blessings and curses. The artifact was throwing against the occultists, and it was not electricity that activated the bomb. It was arcane power, and it sounded like a good idea. I mean, I I shared that with my friend, and she was like, "Oh yes, this sounds interesting. I can start doing some illustrations." But at the end, it went all to the garbage because it was just not. It didn't feel right at the end. I mean, we didn't have much time to do illustrations either, so it was like, okay, that was a cool idea, but it's not going anywhere. So let's just throw it in the garbage and maybe forget about the game. I mean, it failed so many times before, and it's failing right now again. And then I say, no, no, I don't want to throw this game to the garbage because I want to finish it. I mean, I have put so much time the previous year on 2019 on this, so much effort, and if you're tired of starting over, then stop giving up. So I said, okay, let's start again. Let's start from where we left the game a time ago, and I started thinking about how I wanted the game to actually look because at that time I just had these low fidelity prototypes. They were just lines on a cardboard, and I started thinking about the games I like. One of my favorite games is Shot and Totten. It's a game about making card sequence with numbers to to take stones from a border, let's say between two cities. And I really liked the look and feel of the game, so I kind of wanted my game to look like that. And another thing I remembered was I had some friends that used to do things with Arduino components, and I said, when I saw those Arduino components, they felt and looked like toys, and that is something I want my game to feel like. I mean, I want it to look like a little Arduino being connected by some things. Maybe I don't know. It's a cheap bomb, so it may be connected with with tape or some things like that. And I started illustrating the game for the first time in all its design process, and I came out with these components. First, the first one on the top left corner was the first illustration I did on Photoshop. That was the base of the component. It was clearly an Arduino board, and then I started thinking about the components that you can connect. And as you can see on the borders, they were connected by a black plastic tape or something like that. And I took all those designs and I went to one of my best friends that is also an illustrator, one of the best illustrators I know. His name is Augusto Tolosa. Um, and I showed it to him and hope that he will tell me, oh, this looks great and that's looking good. But his actual outcome was it looks like a cheap flash animation. And it was like, okay, there I'm failing again. And I realized that I did all of those illustrations in one day. And I was like trying to hurry up because I wanted to finish the game. And I said, dude, you didn't even look for references on the internet. You just thought about an Arduino board and started throwing things on Illustrator. The colors look awful. Um, the shadows are bad. um, it's not consistent. All the components look different. It's just not the way you would like it to be. You wouldn't play a game that looks like that. So start thinking about the things you want to play and the things you want to look at. And I said, okay, I will take this critic. It looks like a cheap flash animation, whether I like it or not. And I started looking for references on the internet, and I came out with this design process. The first one was the cheap flash animation. Then I have put a grid on the component, on the illustration, and started doing things on grid. I defined some graphical elements or like the round borders or some things like that, um, to make it more consistent along all the designs. And I have showed to my friend again, and he told me, "Oh, it looks really better than before. You just have to take a little bit more another look at the colors of the component of the illustration." And I started looking for palettes on the internet. There's a really cool tool called Coolers. You can look it for it on the web. That helps to make nice looking color palettes. So I have put that on the illustration. And after that, I made some more tweaks with the shadows or some things like that. And I came out with the last example that we are looking at right now. And I said, okay, the game is looking good now. The components of the bomb are looking good. And I need to think about the actions now. And the idea I had for the actions was those graphics from the electronical user manuals that were like outlined in black um, on a like white background or something like that. And I came out with these actions, like the way you are looking at them right now. Um, there are some constructivist design concepts here as well, because as a designer, you want to always be a little bit nerdy. So there are some things from the suprematist um, or constructivist design schools. And well, I came out with this. It was looking better than before. I decided to discard the tapes on the borders and make all the components be connected by wires. So when you build the board, they were always going to be connected. And if it's not connected to anything, it's going to be a cut wire, like you can see on the wire on the center on the last row. And it was looking good. I mean, it was time to test it again with my friends. I called them over and we started playing the game again. Everything went wrong. Nope, this is still boring, dude. If you don't challenge me, I'm not coming back, and some effects are not cool or interesting. They don't do anything. I mean, I, I opened the rules 1 year before I left them. Um, I try to remember all the lessons I have learned on the past. I tweaked some rules, I changed some actions, and I made some bad decisions at that time, some months ago. Um, and the game was still a little bit boring, but they were good things. This looks like a product, and the art is cool. I show it to other people, not just my illustrator friend, um, and they agreed that it was looking like something you would see on a shelf on a game shop or something like that. So that was actually cool. After that, after that session, we started talking, and this was the moment we playing with other people. We were 5 people at that time playing at the game. The game is up to 4 people, but I was taking notes what the other players interacted with the game, and that conversation was when the game actually changed for good, because I started hearing ideas from other people. While we were talking, one of my friends said something like, "Okay, yeah, but I don't feel like there is anything happening here. For example, if you have the detonator here on this side of the bomb or something like that," and my other 2 friends say, "Hey, but there's not a detonator on the bomb. The bomb is a detonator, so the game doesn't work like that. We can't do something like that." And I thought, they are no mistakes, just happy accidents, as Bob Ross said. And I took that idea, that mistake one of my friends did, um, while talking about the rules of the game. But what if they actually are detonators inside the bomb? What if they actually are a component that you need to look for, and you need to disable all the detonators in the bomb before the time ends? And that was actually a really, really good thing, because from that point, I came out with these new rules. There was a new component, the detonator. There was one for each floor of the bomb. I mean, you can, while you're uh, assembling the bomb, um, there are multiple layers of grids. It's not just one 3x3 grid. It's several of them, one on top of another. So there was going to be one detonator for each floor of the bomb. You cannot interact with it. If you do, you lose. And there was something interesting, because the players didn't feel that anything they were doing on the board was having consequences. Like, I can move anything to any place and nothing is going to happen. But if you have something that challenges you, a limitation on a board that is already really small, you need to think a little bit better about what you are going to do. And the new objective of the game, it was the first time on the game since I started designing it, it changed the actual objective of the game. It was not disarming a bomb, it was find and deactivate all of the detonators. Um, it changed from a game where you just take components from a board to a game where you need to look for components on multiple sides of a board. And at the time, there was a new card type that were called tools. It were um, merged on the actions deck that the player needs to draw cards every turn. And there were 3 different tools: a welder, a screwdriver, and a plier. And the rules for those cards were: a single player must play all of them at once in order to deactivate a detonator. So you can't interact with the detonator, you can move the detonator, you can't fire the detonator or you will lose. But there's one specific rule, and one specific objective and goal you need with the detonator. You need to gather the 3 tools and use them at once by one player, and you must find them as you find the detonator. So there were there were a new layer to the game. Now that was, I need to look for the tools on the actions pile, and look for the detonators on the bomb. And I came out with the first playable prototype of my game. This was the first time uh, I had like a playable prototype. Plastic. I don't know if that word exists in English. Um, I cover with plastic on both sides of the cards. I print all of them in my house, and it was looking good. And we started playing again, and there were new rules. Maximum hand size to three. It started being three, but then some rules changed and it went up to five, and we decided, no, okay, five is like a lot, so we are going to go back to three, and you can spend 1 second to give one card from your hand to another player. And that was a really cool rule, that we realized it was going to work really well, because as you are going to look for the tools, if there are more than two players, it is highly probable that I have one tool and the other player has the other two tools, and I can handle my tool from my hand to him, but I need to spend time from the counter to do that. But that was a nice rule, and the players really liked it. Sorry, and there were modified effects. There were new effects like discarding effects, effects to look for specific cards, to like look for specific tools on the on the deck. Effects to recover cards from the discard pile, so you could get back discarded tools, and effects that return components from the discard pile to the bomb. So you spend like 3 seconds interacting with the bomb and taking components from that, and suddenly one effect just returns component to the bomb. It means like, okay, we went back, and now we need to re-interact with those components to take them out and keep looking um, for the detonators. I modified an action. Inspect didn't work anymore like it was working. It was not like giving information to the players the way it was giving, but now you could target a component and see all the components that were on the lower levels of the bomb behind that component. And it was like, okay, with this, I can now look closer to the places and to the floors and to specific coordinates where the detonators are going to be, and uh, we need to go for them. We need to start interacting with the bomb to remove all the components that are on the top until we get to that detonator. And there were new actions that didn't activate any component, but just changed things on the board. Those new actions were swap. You can swap the place of two components, and alternate, which you could alternate the level of two components, like put one component on top of another, and the one that was behind was rebuilt. We played again, and finally, after 2 years of design, with 1 year with nothing in the middle, the game was looking good. And that was like a month ago from now. And after all of that journey, I really felt that every failure that I had in the past was finally paying with a little bit of success. And the game as it looks like now, it's like this. I have this on my hand. I don't know if you can see my camera. Um, this is the game right now. We were playing with my friends for the last month and a half, and it looks cool. It works. It is funny. We were, for the first time ever, having fun playing the game I was designing. They were like moments where you screwed up accidentally and was not like, oh my god, what have you done, or funny moments or strategical moments. I was playing with one friend, and he started like laying out a strategy because he already know by deduction where all the detonators were going to be on all the layers of the bomb. And that was something I didn't realize that could happen. And the guy came out with that, and he was right. He was looking like 3 turns in the future with all the cards that we have on our hands, and it was like a puzzle game where you can build strategy on top of. And it was really cool at that time, and the game is working right now. Uh, we modified some components after some little tweaks. The wires, you can activate just them just once now, and once you cut a wire, as you already cut that wire, you need to take it out from the bomb. And it's a really powerful component because you can take 3 components from the bomb, just activating one. But that's cool. You can just do it once for each wire. And there are balance rules, like actions that can return things to the board or something, things like that, that balance the cool things of the wire, so it's not OP anymore. And well, the road of design just goes on and on and on, uh, because it's when you're designing something, it's sometimes a long journey. There are still things that I need to finish on my game, even when it's actually working right now, even when it's actually funny right now. Um, I have some design struggles yet because we looked at all the components and all the actions, but we didn't look at the effects deck. And I was thinking like, if the effects are going to be something that the person who made the bomb was thinking about when creating the bomb that then were activated or something like that, maybe it can be hand drawn effects like post-it cards behind the components, like the creator of the bomb mocking uh, or making fun of the people that want to disarm the bomb. So hand drawn is it was something like I really liked, and I just came out with components being written. I just discarded the post-it cards because they were not looking good. The timer was another big struggle for me because I wanted a component looking element of the game, and I realized I didn't have to invent the wheel because there were already something I could use, a design I could use. And I thought about the character cards of King of Tokyo, where you have that rolling piece, and I said I can do exactly the same but with numbers, with the content of the bomb. And another thing I was thinking about was on the back of the cards you had, of the components of the bomb, you had the logo of the game, and that was a problem because if you know where the logo is facing, when you remove one component and reveal the one that was behind it, um, it's going to be flipped, let's say. And if you know where the logo is pointing to, you can rotate or flip the card in a way that is convenient to you. If you don't have that information, it's going to be random because you're not going to know where to point the component or where to flip it to. Other struggle I was having is writing a rule book. Um, I didn't realize it was going to be so hard because it's like trying to read the mind of all the people that is going to read your rule book, and it's kind of a hard UX work. I mean, designing a full game is always a UX work because it's like trying to predict or trying to change or trying to evoke emotions on people, and that's all user experience, player experience in the case of a game. So it's all heavy UX work, and I'm making progress on the rulebook right now, testing it with several people to see if they really understand. I mean, I give them the rulebook, they read it, and then I try to play with them without explaining anything to see if they understood or not. And that's a work in progress at this time. And before I consider my game finished, I need to add the characters because it is still a boom squad. You need the characters, and there will be characters, and the competitive mode because it is a cooperative game. Um, but I am working on a points-based game system or rules, so one player can play against the others and try to deactivate all the detonators first before the others can do that. And that is going to be interesting because um, there are many rules that let the player share their cards or something like that, and it's going to change on this new competitive mode. But that's still a work in progress as well. I have to fail many times on this yet. And if I had to give you advice about designing anything, I guess um, the first one is going to be just ignore me because I don't know anything. But if I had to give you advice, it would be be prepared to fail, because that is going to happen a lot of times. And sometimes it's going to be a little bit hard to face or to accept. You don't know everything. In fact, you don't know 90% of the things that you think you know. Listen to your peers. The other people will usually have better ideas or good ideas at least. Give yourself a rest because you can be at 100% all the time. Take your time to do stuff. My dad always say that the things you do in a rush are going to be uh, not successful. Be surrounded by things that inspire you. I mean, my life is like a table full of little games. I mean, I'm really an addicted to board games or to card games. This is all cheap games that I buy on the street. And um, finished, not perfect is a mantra from a video I really like by Jake Parker. I really recommend you to see that video. It's about you have to finish things. It's not always going to look the exact same way that you thought about them. It's not going to be perfect. Just finish them, and the reward you are going to get when you finish something is going to be really uh, really big. Take decisions without fear, because I mean, with the design struggles, realized I was losing so much time on something I wanted to look perfect, and I say, okay, it's moment to it's time to go on. I will just take a decision and go on, and that's all. Have parallel projects, because if you work too much on one project, you are going to burn out yourself. Design something you want to play, because if you're designing just for others, you are going to end up with something you can relate to. And if you can relate to something that you are designing, um, there's a sentence by Scott McCloud that is a comic artist that says, if you draw a comic you want to read, if nobody else wants to read your comic, you will at least have one reader. And that is a really cool phrase for me. Do not try to invent the wheel, just steal things like an artist. Look for other designs. Probably somebody thought about it before, and it thought it about it better in a better way. But the most important advice I could give you about designing a game is have fun, because that's what games are about. Not only playing them, design them, thinking about them, trying to evoke emotions on people, it's all about having fun. So if you don't have fun designing something that you need to have fun playing with, it's not going to work in the end. Uh, so this is something I wanted to share with you. All of those things that you are looking on the screen right now are the things that I discarded for the game or previous designs. Uh, Even the one in the middle are all spare cards that I'm not using right now. Mechanics I try to do before I consider it finished, but that doesn't work in the end. I mean, you're going to discard many ideas. And that's the story or the journey from a shower idea to a playable model of my game. And well, thanks for listening. One more thing I want to share with you before we finish is some resources, some things that if you like board games, you can look into. The first one is boardgamegeek.com. It's like internet movie database, but for board games. It's a really cool website. You can look for the Ludology podcast. That's a podcast about all the science behind the the board games. 20 years, 20 lessons learned by Mark Rosewater. That's a talk. I highly inspired in to do this talk. That's a really cool one. The video Finish Not Perfect by Jake Parker. A great mantra. Look at them. Look at that video. You will not regret. And the Reddit Air board game design if you're interested in designing board games, because there are great discussions in there. And well, that's all. That's Boom Squad design journey. So thank you.
Nice. Really, really cool talk, Carlos.
Thank
I
you.
have a question. Where we pre-order? Is there a web page or?
That's a good question. I mean, one of the next steps I'm thinking about is sending my game to an editor here in Argentina. I'm thinking about. I cannot say the brand. I I guess sending a game to an editor here, and well, we will try our luck. If that doesn't work, I will release a print and play version or something like that. So eventually, you will be able to play the game. I I promise that.
Nice, nice. Maybe at one point, if it's famous, like somebody here can help you do an online version, like that
Yeah,
we can play together.
we can do tabletop simulator plugin or something like that. That's something we can do right now. In fact, we
Nice.
don't have to wait.
That sounds like a cool project. Do we have any questions for Carlos?
Yeah, I have one question. You talk a lot about time, but how you handle the time that everybody has? It is random, or everybody has the same time,
Yes,
or it's
yes,
just shared time?
yes. You're talking about the time on the counter of the game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, there is a one shared counter that at this moment on the game with 4 floors of components is set on 30 seconds. It's like 30 turns. But with the effects of the effects deck, that time is going to always change. Like sometimes you are going to have 1 less seconds or 2 less seconds or extra seconds, and interacting um, with the board is not always going to remove components, so you need to manage your time a little bit better. And after like 4 or 5 game tests, we realized that that time was accurate, because we lost some matches against the game and we won some matches against the game. So we realized that the matches that we lost were because we didn't manage the time in a correct way, and that's balanced right now. But it went through a lot of changes during the design process. At one time, it was 45 seconds and 5 floors of the bomb. We realized that was a lot. At one moment, it was 20 seconds, like 20 turns, and that was too little. And we needed to tweak the timer a lot through the design process. But at this moment is 30 seconds, and it's a shared timer.
Great, thanks. Amazing talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I want to make a comment, not a question. I found that all this journey you have been making on this creating this game, it's like a super beautiful experience. Give it all on one project and putting so much effort, so much time, so much care in something that right now it's like a reality. I found it so cool. I find it so, I don't know, admirable in the end. So
Thank
congratulations. You did a great job and put so much effort, and this is the result, and it's amazing.
Thank you. It's really rewarding at the end when you can see your game as a reality, and not only a game. I mean, like any project that you have put so much effort. It's really cool to see it materialize. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I wanted to extend what Marina said and what you just said, that I love this talk very much because about the last things you said, the last screens, for me, it was not a talk about how to make a game, but it was a talk about how to do something, I mean, anything in your life, any project of whatever, which you have no idea how to deal with. And I mean, this talk gives me inspiration. I mean, your way of thinking and everything can be applied to whatever you want to do. I mean, we saw how you failed several times, but still you keep designing until you find something that you really like. I mean, always looking at the positives and negative side of each iteration. And that's something I really respect. I mean, it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, in all design process, there is always going to be iterations. And sometimes you, at least on my experience, it's not like I'm a guru of design or something like that. It's just my personal experience with this specific project. Sometimes you feel really lost, like there is no possible way to improve something because you have put everything on the game and it's not working anyway. So it's like, okay, where do I look at right now? Where do I go? Where do I direct my actions? And well, just put it aside and come back to it later, and you will have better ideas. Any more questions or comments? Okay, I think we're done.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Like that, I really like it. Like the idea that you have to actually use it. You have to play to see what works and what not, and like that really like teach you how to keep evolving it. And I think that applies for a lot of things. Like even something about like, I don't know, designing a component API or a design system or something like. You really see how all the pieces fit together when you work with it, when you use it, you build something with it. That's really cool. And actually it's very funny that some of the pieces and rules, how they end up, like now looks very natural. For example, like the one about the cable that you can only cut once, that is very good, because how are you going to cut twice the same cable? Like it's already done. It should be like that from the beginning, no? But like, of course, that is part of the process, and you arrive to something that now looks simple or natural, but that is good. That is a very good sign. No?
Yeah, absolutely. That was something like, yeah, but the illustration may have like 3 wires, but it was like, no, I mean, the wires are already an OP component. Let's let them do what they do, and that's all. And it feels natural, as you say right now. I mean, you already cut that wire, get rid of it. That's all. Yeah, I mean, it has been a long journey. One thing before we can wrap it up, a couple of things. The first one is on Lenny Labs. We have a channel for board game discussion, so you can join that if you're in the company. And the second thing is, at one moment I mentioned that you can have, or it's good to have parallel projects, and I'm actually working on on several games, not just this one. That's why I call myself a board game designer, not because my face is just hard. Um, and I would like to show you how it looks like a design document. Just 1 second.
Nice.
Google Chrome here. This is how a design document looks like. This was the first iterations were like just writing things down here. There are test notes. There are some things like you need to take a look into. If you look at this, for example, these were one of the previous designs. They are just icons in a blank background, and some things like that. They are constantly evolving. And well, for example, for the effects, we had these decks with just numbers, and as we realized that if we printed all of the effects, we were changing them like constantly. This was a better way to test them. Just have a table on a document and reference that with numbers, and that worked out really well. And this is the document that we were always changing. We have values, like how many cards of each one they are in the game. These values also changed a lot during all the design process. And if you have parallel projects, when you are burned out with one, you can just jump to another if you don't want to just do anything, because taking a rest is also a good thing. But you can take other games, like I don't know, for example, one day I took one of my poker cards decks, and I came out with a really simple game that is about gathering all the cards from a specific symbol. I don't know how it's called in English, like a specific palo. It's in Spanish. But I came out with these simple rules. It's a really simple game I can share with you. I will for sure do that on the board game design, on the board game channel of Lenny Labs. And then there's my really big project that is like, I don't know, several years now since I started thinking about this. It's a game about give me just 1 second. I have to open the door, but this is going to be really quick. Sorry.
Should we send questions to the vacuum? Somebody wants to say something? Okay, it's back.
I'm sorry. It's my biggest project. Is a game about robots fighting one against each other. It's like you have to build a robot and make it fight against the other ones, and it's like a big one. I am working actively right now, but it's going to be at least 2 more years, I guess, of constant failure until I can have a playable prototype of this one. I can show you just one more thing. I think we are way out of time right now.
Don't worry, the people that need to go already left. So
okay.
relax.
Just one more thing here. You can see this is how this graphic design document looks like. Oh, sorry. This is all the designs for the game of the robots. There are multiple iterations on this design, like how you can arrange the cards, how you can show some values. It's a really big game because it's not a puzzle. It's a living card game. That is the genre of the game, like Arkham Horror, or Android Netrunner, or all the games that from Fantasy Flight Games that are like really big games with cards on it. It's a living card game. It's really big, and it has a lot of values and a lot of balancing that I need to do. And I'm a really visual person, so I started doing the balancing with graphics, and this is how the design process looks. Before you can test something, you can smash your head. You have to smash your head against the wall multiple times and think and rethink again. A lot of stuff. Many of the sizes of these cards or the values or some things like that, I am taking reference from other games. How did other people solve the same problems that I had? I went into Reddit, on the Air board game design subreddit, and asked a lot of questions about how could I solve things on my game. And they took the time, at least 3 people took the time to read all my long posts and understand all my problems of design and help me out. I came out with a custom system of fighting that no other game had. And when you're creating something new, you have to question yourself. If nobody created this before, it was because they just didn't think about it, or because they didn't need it. You are trying to reinvent the wheel, or you are trying to make something cool. And the only way of knowing that, or know if you are right or not, is testing it. And it has a lot of tests ahead. But I just wanted to share that with you. This is another design document, a lot of printable prototypes to see the sizes on the real sizes of the cards or some things like that. And I don't know, it's really cool to do this stuff. That's what I really enjoy about designing games.
It's really nice.
Thank you.
And also at your previous game, like looking at all these options that you're showing, like one interesting thing is that you can sell, like, or give, no, not sell, but like make extension packs like later for the for the Boom Squad. Like you can introduce different mechanics and like only like 3 new cards and everything changes.
Yeah, something we were discussing with my friends is usually when you release a game, you have promotional content, like one specific card that is really OP, and you only have that card if you buy that game on the pre-release or some things like that. And we were already thinking about that. I mean, there's something I really want to say, and it's not only my game. It's not that I decided that game, because saying that is lying. Because I had friends that gave me ideas, that shared their thoughts. It's a collaborative work, and I wouldn't dare to say I decided this game and all the ideas that are inside of it are just mine, because that's not true. So I think that's all.
Okay, thank you so much, Carlos, for taking the time. And like it's always so good to to hear from someone that really has the passion, like that you can feel
Thank
it
you.
from the other side.
Thank you for inviting me.
And it looks very fun to play. So at one point, I hope we can do it.
You will, I promise.
Nice. Okay, so see you. Thanks everybody for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
joining.
Bye.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Great work. Thank you.